Good morning, all of you. We have with us today Miss Wardah Khan, who has got All India 18th rank in this year's Civil Services exam. So thank you very much for giving her a big hand. So welcome to Vajiram. She did her General Studies course online with Vajiram and Ravi foundation course in 2021, and she has sociology as her optional subject, which she prepared on her own. And we requested her to come and share her experience of having prepared for this exam, and she will talk to you for about 45 minutes, and thereafter you can she will take the questions from you. You can ask your personal questions relating to your preparation. She will address your questions. So thank you very much, and thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So just a brief introduction I'd like to give about myself. My UPSC journey started way back in 2021 while I was working. So I initially started with the newspapers and NCRTs, but the preparation was just all over the place. It was haywire. So I decided to enroll for GS coaching to streamline my preparation, and no other better option than Vajiram, which is known for its faculty and quality of teaching. So I joined the 2021 online batch to give my first attempt in 2022. I did the 1 year complete coaching and self-study for my optional. In 2022, I couldn't get through pre. Interestingly or embarrassingly, I failed in both GS and CSAT because GS I missed the cutoff by 1.33 marks, and in CSAT because I hadn't taken it seriously, so I deserved to fail in that. So naturally, I knew that my GS strategy was on track and I needed to just brush up my basics a bit. And for CSAT, I had to practice. I knew this. So and I also realized that back in 2022, my mains preparation and my notes weren't that prepared. So had I gotten through the prelims, I would have definitely failed the mains. So yeah, back right after 2022 result, I started completing my notes. First, I completed my optional notes. I consolidated my ethics notes because all of you who are studying here must be knowing that we have at least 2 to 3 faculty for a particular subject. So you must, I don't know about everyone else, but I used to have dedicated registers and notes for every faculty. Like for Manocha sir, climatology he teaches, I kept another copy for that, and another for geomorphology and stuff taught by Rizwan sir. So I had to consolidate and put my notes in one place for a quick revision before my mains, and this is what I did in that after my 2022 results came, and in that 1 full year. From December onwards, from December 2022, I started my prelims preparation. So the key takeaway from this is that for those who haven't been able to clear pre at least once, you should start your dedicated pre-preparation from December, and if not December, from January at least. And during that time, from December onwards only, I started dedicating 2 hours to CSAT. For this, I revisited the paper, the 2022 paper that I had attempted, and why I couldn't get through the basic questions. So I made an Excel sheet out of it, the areas that that were doable, namely the time and distance, time and work questions, the PNC questions, and some logical reasoning stuff that were doable, and the weak areas that I needed to work upon, maybe probability or certain areas of number system. So I made a sheet out of it. I analyzed myself. I watched a few lectures that are freely available on YouTube on these chapters to brush up my basics. So yeah, that was that about CSAT. I dedicated 2 hours every day since December onwards. I practiced a lot of paper. I didn't want to have that regret to fail again in CSAT. Okay, so Coming to the strategy part, I think I'll do it both prelims, mains, and all the stage wise, prelims, mains, and interview. So we have the 6 main subjects. Everybody knows about the standard books, I suppose. But I also believe that you must have done your NCRTs at least once. Once also I am understating. I remember I had done the NCRTs while I was still working. I had developed a habit of your newspaper reading as well as NCRTs before joining the coaching. So that, because it also helps you to understand what's being taught in the coaching once you are thorough with your basics and NCRTs. So there are few NCRTs that are non-negotiable, that are indispensable. You just cannot afford to miss them. First and foremost being your geography NCRT, something that will help you till your mains. Most of the questions can be answered from that geography NCRT. Then your polity, I believe it's named Indian Constitution at Work. So that you can read once, because of late we've been seeing that there are a lot of philosophical questions in polity about constitutional morality and stuff that are coming. So you'll be able to answer that once you are done with your polity NCRT. And again, history, of course, not sure about the modern part because most of us refer to spectrum, but your ancient and medieval you need to do. In fact, medieval more, because a lot of questions from the society at that part, from the religion, position of women, the culture, religious practices, a lot of such questions are coming, and that can be directly answered from the NCRT. So yeah, that was that about NCRT. Now we'll go subject wise in prelims. I'll tell you my sources and how I went about different subjects. So polity, of course, we all know that after we have the Lakshmikant, it's a sine qua non of polity. So yeah, there is no limit to the number of times you can revise that book. So you cannot go with the number ki haan itne baar I have revised, so I think I'm good to go. Revise it as many times as you can, because we are bound to forget things in a span of time. So yeah, Lakshmikant was there, and I'm not sure if Satvik sir is teaching you polity, Satvik Bhan sir, yeah, okay. So the notes that I prepared, so I used to simultaneously prepare my notes while the lecture was going on. I was a part of the online batch. So I remember that his notes were very, easy to refer for revision purposes. Of course, when we have done the Lakshmikant, it seems humongous to it. The book itself seems to humongous to us, that how do I revise it, especially so many times. Once you've done it 5 to 6 times, then I think it's possible to revise it in a week. I used to revise it in a week. But usse pehle you need some ready-made short notes to refer. So I think Satvik sir's notes are good to go for that. For history, I refer to this Vajiram notes again, but I supplemented it with Lucent because it has a lot of factual information, and these days a lot of facts are being asked. You must have come across that question of 2022, I guess. That was the question was funum is a terminology used for what? So the coins was the answer, and it was given in Lucent, I suppose, because I had it in my notes. So yeah, both of these were sources for ancient. For medieval, I'm not sure if the faculty is still here or not. Rohan Srivastav sir was, so he's still there. So he used to teach us medieval, and I think it's the one-stop solution for medieval after NCRT, of course. So NCRT you have to do. Yeah, so after his notes are beneficial for both prelims and mains, more so for mains. Because I remember that in this year's mains, in my batch 2023, there was a question in GS1 that was about the technological developments during the Delhi Sultanate period. And I remember that I had so many specific things to quote, because he will be giving you notes about the warfare technology used by the Mongols that were replicated here, that were practiced here, and also about the different kinds of industries, the soap making industries or the sword making industries, the Damascene steel and the textile industries that were developed during the Sultanate rule. So, and I still remember those things, all because I had done from his notes. So when I came out of the hall, I used to take pride in that answer कि वो तो मेरा best answer होगा. I think nobody can beat me on that because I knew so many specific details on that. So yeah, medieval was done from his notes, and I'm sure, I don't know if he must have asked you or not, because art and culture he teaches towards the end of the batch. There's a website called CCRT website. Not sure about the full form. I think it's Center for Cultural Resources and Training. So that website has, I prepared my notes of paintings, the paintings during the Mughals and your regional painting schools, the Kangra painting and the Bundi school and all. So I prepared it directly from that website. It's given in short paragraphs there, a very point-wise format in the website itself. So I prepared my painting notes from that. You can say that, you know, they're both ancient and medieval. Of course, the input-output ratio is so dismal because we study so much and sometimes those facts come that we haven't even heard of. But it's okay. At least if someday something comes from what we studied, it will give us a sense of achievement na, ki I had done that. So yeah. Since the past few years paintings are not coming, but I would suggest you to do that, and I think sir would also suggest you in some time. For modern end to end, I referred spectrum. I revised it so many times. I thought of bringing my spectrum also. It's torn in between. I had to like put tape and staple it, especially the part where the Indian National Congress formation starts. वो फट गया है बीच से किताब पूरी. तो yeah, spectrum will help you throughout in prelims. You can, when you will refer the PYQs, you will find questions directly mappable to spectrum. So you cannot have that excuse in modern history that I don't know where it came from, because mostly the questions are coming from spectrum, and also in your mains. So I'll be quoting a few examples in between the questions that I remember from my mains, and how I could answer them from my sources. So this year in GS1, there was a question that draw parallels, or there was something like between Rabindranath Tagore and Mahatma Gandhi. There was something along those lines in GS1. And that can be answered if you refer your spectrum. You know, you have your, both of their approaches. There are similarities, there are differences also. Mahatma Gandhi's view on nationalism and how it was not particularly liked by Rabindranath Tagore. He equated it with the, you know, narrow-mindedness, and it's inward-looking, he said. And then views on education, how they picked up from each other. His Shanti Niketan, how it was about multidisciplinary learning, where even you know, physical activity was being taught and all-round development of personality was done. And how Mahatma Gandhi also sort of picked up from that in his Phoenix farm, in its Tolstoy farm. So when you read through the lines, no, I think you should also enjoy reading spectrum. It's more of it felt like a storybook to me every time I read it. So when you read with that interest, you will get those specific examples to quote in your mains. तो मेंस के आंसर यू डोंट हैव टू प्रिपेयर अलग से और सिट और थिंक कि अब वहाँ पे कैसे आंसर करते ऑन द स्पॉट. इट ऑल लार्ज पार्ट ऑफ इट कम्स फ्रॉम योर प्रीलिम्स नॉलेज ऑल्सो बिकॉज यू हैव दोज फैक्ट्स इन माइंड. So yeah, for modern I did spectrum, and I also used class notes of Jayan Parikshit sir. Does he teach you economics? Okay. So besides that, he must be uploading his handouts also on your portal, on your Vajiram portal. Achha, always, you know, be regular in checking your portal also every day, and the new handouts that are coming. So I used to be active there. So his notes were good for quick revision and for certain types of topics like say trade agreements. A lot of times we are confused amongst ki FTA or usme ECTA mein ya CCPA, jo different kinds of agreements that are being concluded recently with countries. What is the difference amongst all of them? It's good for revising those type of trade agreements. For indexes, CPI, WPI, the base year, the weights that are being used, the categories of products that are being included. So, and for financial markets also. So these are some of the topics that I remember that I greatly benefited while revising from his notes. Otherwise, any standard book for economy and also your Vajiram class notes, they'll benefit you more during your mains. So this is your prelims part. For geography, end to end, I depended on Vajiram notes and of course NCRT. Climatology, Manocha sir must be taking. So just revise his notes. Try to do, try to do one thing that when you are studying climatology from your NCRT, once you're done with the chapter, then read the notes of the same chapter from your Vajiram notes. So simultaneously you're doing both the things. So in case if something has been missed out on in your NCRT, that will be covered in your notes. So that was in climatology. And yeah, so is Rizwan sir teaching all of you? Yeah. So I'm sure he must be making you draw a lot of small maps also while teaching Indian geography. So that will come in handy while writing your answers. So I cannot claim that I'm a very good authority to say on this, because honestly speaking, I haven't used a single map in any of my mains answers. But in no way I endorse this. Maybe it worked for me. It is not necessary that it will work for everyone else. The thing is, maps can only support your answer. It cannot replace your arguments in answers. So I might have given arguments that sort of did the work. That's why I didn't need maps. And also I had this fear in mind that if I sit down, I'm not very good at drawing. So if I sit down and draw maps, so usme 5 minutes chala jayega, I will lose out on my time. But I have a lot of friends who have drawn maps, who've cleared the mains, who've gotten ranks this year. So in no way I'm endorsing that you shouldn't. If you can, then please do draw. And Rizwan sir, while you'll be making notes from his classes, he'll make you draw a lot of small maps of different areas. So that will come in handy. Okay. So this is a small part of economic geography also. In recent years, we are seeing that a lot of mineral-based questions are coming. Monazite-based question, I think it came in 22 or 23, the monazite sands. So you must all have gotten yellow books from the institute. So you can do the important minerals because they are not given exhaustively in your NCRTs. So you can do the economic geography part from your yellow book. Okay. Besides that, when you're referring to the current affairs also, you know what sort of minerals and resources are in news. Like everybody knows that lithium has been important since 2 to 3 years. Although it's not coming, जो predictable होता है वो UPSC पूछता ही नहीं है, because it knows कि ये तो prepared ही होगा. But still it doesn't give you an excuse to not prepare that. So yeah, keep a tab on the current, those minerals and resources that are in news, and yellow book is the way to go about it. Okay. Then we come to environment. So for environment, the static part, environment is more current oriented, I feel. It's the kind of questions being asked are very dynamic. Whatever is in news, that's being asked. Or sometimes something is asked which none of us know. So that is a different game altogether. For science and technology, yeah, a huge credit I would give to Vajiram for science and technology. Because coming from a non-science background, the kind of notes that you will be provided here, they are easily understandable by someone who doesn't have a background, easily understandable to a layman also. And I will tell you, direct questions have come from the notes. So in my first attempt in 2022, there was a question on the vaccines, that which kind of vaccine operates on which technology, which one is mRNA, or which one is a DNA based vaccine, and viral vector vaccine. There are different types, and I don't know who is teaching. Dr. Rahul sir is there. Yeah, so very good notes. Revise it n number of times. I could do that question because I had revised my biotechnology notes from here. And all of your, in fact, S&T, all the notes of all the faculties, your space technology, I think Vinoy sir must be taking, and if not, irrespective of the faculty, I think your notes are good to go. Then besides science and technology, it's more current oriented also. But most of the times the faculty integrates the current part in the notes, but if not, then of course you must be referring to something for current affairs. I'll come to the current affairs part later. So for science and technology, you have to do your notes plus keep a tab on the current affairs. Like whatever, I remember I had prepared a 2-pager note of biotechnology terminologies that were in news. So there was one, I think in the context of COVID only, there was a term named adjuvant. So I think it is given along with it is amalgamated with the vaccine to increase the efficacy and stuff. So that was a term in news, so I had written it in my notes. So keep a tab on the current affairs for science and technology. Okay. So yeah, and for space and there would be your nanotechnology and nuclear energy stuff also in science and tech. It might benefit you in prelims. Less questions come in prelims from these areas, but it will definitely benefit you in your mains. This year there was a question on Chandrayaan 3. And I'm pretty sure every space mission that is covered in your notes, it has all the mission objectives are being taught, the kind of payloads being onboarded, the technology behind it. So you can easily answer a mains question if you've done your notes from here, your science and tech notes. Okay. So regarding the current affairs, so I used to refer to the Hindu throughout. Only during my interview preparation, I supplemented it with Indian Express for a brief period of time. But again, now I'm so fond of Indian Express now. It's given in a much more streamlined format, and so I mean, either of the two you can use. Of course, both are beneficial, but I am more inclined towards Indian Express now. So yeah, what I did was, besides this, of course, newspaper reading it's indispensable again, like your NCRTs and PYQ, you have to do it. But because we are reading it on a daily basis, we might forget it after some time. For this reason, there are monthly compilations, of course, of any coaching institute. So what I used to do is that when I read the newspaper, I used to underline with red pen the factual part that is beneficial for prelims and the fodder points that I would use in my mains. So in my phone, in my gallery, there are still GS-wise segregated albums where I had clicked the pictures of the important mains related stuff that I had picked from newspaper. And so I have it GS-wise ki I will use in social justice. This one I'll use in my optional. This one I'll use in IR, bilateral relations. So pick a lot of points from your editorials, and there are a few editorials I would suggest also when I'll come to the mains strategy part. So yeah, like I said, okay, so as regards the monthly compilation also, so what I did was in my laptop I used to read, I highlighted the important stuff and I made notes of it. So there's a January ka note, for example, January ka 2 page or 2 to 2.5 page notes hoga usme, current affairs ka, and I would do it topic wise, ki what was important in IR, in technology, in economy. Polity of course is more static, and in culture, maybe whatever temple was in news or stuff like that. So I had made 12 months, notes, 2 pages, and I revised it multiple number of times before my prelims. So in case there is no direct hit also from, a lot of times it happens that there is no direct hit of any question from your notes, but the knowledge that you will gain, the peripheral knowledge that you will gain, it will help you in eliminating other options. So that was all about prelims. Now I'll come to the mains part. I'll do it paper wise. Starting from the essay, so I had done a crash course of essay, mainly because I didn't face much problem with the content, but I had a problem in structuring the essays. So I'll mention it in my Telegram channel also. I haven't made it yet. I'm planning to make it, where I'll be posting from where all I took guidance. So, and I wrote essays on PYQ topics. Okay. So instead of directly jumping to the topics given by coaching institutes or in your test series, you first write your essays on the PYQs. It helps you to ascertain whether you are able to understand the topic or not, because a lot hinges on whether you have interpreted the topic correctly or not. Sorry. Yeah. So I wrote 6 to 7 essays on PYQ topics, and I had a friend and we used to evaluate each other's essays. I was also part of a number of groups where I used to post my essays. Someone would review mine, I used to review someone else. So mutual partners you will get once you become a part of a number of groups during mains and all, you will easily find partners who would review and evaluate your essays. Okay, then besides that, something that you can do on your own in essay is that what I did, I had prepared a 2-page note for essay where I listed all the quotes and all the anecdotes that I'll be using. So quotes not the examples, okay? So the examples in your essays will come from your GS knowledge largely, from your world history or maybe from your international relations. You don't have to fret over this. Once you will be equipped with your GS knowledge, you will be able to sprinkle it in your essays. That is a non-issue. But giving an effective introduction and a conclusion and how quotes are being infused in the essays, you know, that is something that will add a unique touch to your essay. So what I did was I prepared 2-page notes of the quotes and the anecdotes that I would use. And most of the times you will see that essays are, of course, they are about virtuous things only, about honesty, visionary thinking, about gender equality and stuff. So you will find that your anecdotes and your quotes can be used across different kinds of essays. So just prepare a list of 10 to 12 quotes and some, I would say 4 to 5 anecdotes, because I used to open my essay with an anecdote and then in my in my penultimate conclusion, second last paragraph, I used to close the loop of that anecdote. Like I had introduced a story, I related that story with the topic in the second paragraph of essay, and in the second last paragraph, I closed the loop of that story, that what I learned from it overall. I'll post my essay copies also. Coming to GS1, okay, so world history is there. A lot of us are very much concerned about world history. Sometimes questions are not even asked, and sometimes those kind of questions are asked where you have to think on the spot. So there is no solution to that. Like I remember this time there was a question on the role of railways, I suppose. Now nobody could have prepared for this. Nobody. The most we can prepare for is Industrial Revolution, World Wars, Cold War, and little topics, Cuban Missile Crisis and stuff like that. But again, I would like to emphasize here that the world history notes that I made here, I could cherry pick things from the Industrial Revolution part to use in that railways wala answer. You can also use the Indian context, how railways were, you know, it was a colonial, it was symbolic of the colonialism because it provided an avenue where they could extract our raw materials and deliver the finished product. So it was, railway was seen as an extension of the colonial government. So yeah, what I mean to say is that even if you don't know answer to a particular question in mains, it's not like you will be blank. You will be able to maneuver around it based on your GS knowledge. You can never be 100% prepared for all the 20 questions. Your all 20 questions in mains will not be like the best. Your best will be maybe 10 to 11. Some will be average and some will be really poor, that you have just written anything just to make sense of the topic. So yeah, but still take world history seriously. Don't study it like before your mains, before clearing prelims, because it's time taking and it's not worth it. It only comes in mains. And okay, so then art and culture questions asked in GS1, again that red NCRT, the thin one, that NCRT is the way to go. And spectrum again is helpful. I just gave you example of that Tagore versus Mahatma Gandhi question that can be answered from spectrum, and geography questions again can be answered from your class notes, and resources, resource based, because that is a topic in your main syllabus also. Also yes, please memorize your syllabus, entire UPSC syllabus. You should be thorough. While reading newspapers also you should be able to point out this topic, this editorial is for this topic in this paper. This will help me in GS2 social justice. So you should know that in mind. So yeah, so I was saying that in GS1 there is a topic on resources. So what I did was, there's only little you can do, everything else is out of bounds, no? So I prepared for resources, I prepared on lithium, on pharmaceuticals, and rare earth elements, because they've been in news recently due to EVs and stuff. So those resources that have largely been in use, you can prepare that. Besides this, again your yellow book, economic geography, that will come in handy, and your current affairs that you must be referring. Okay. Yeah, millets was another thing that I had prepared because it was in news. Yeah. Then the society part. Since I come from sociology, so I didn't have much difficulty in answering the society questions. But again, there is a disclaimer for those with the sociology optional. Do not throw your sociology jargons and thinkers there. Do not agitate the examiner. He is not checking your sociology paper, he is checking a general studies paper. So you cannot come across as a sociologist there. You're not required to explicate your sociology knowledge there. वो अपने optional में आप show कर लेना. तो society में is a Sahil Goyal sir teaching. Yeah. So best one-stop solution again. His notes. You will find his notes on family, marriage. These are the topics that most of the society questions are coming from. At the end of the day, society questions are very dynamic, even for sociology background students, because we have to stop ourselves from using those terminologies, but yet we have to answer something that we haven't read before. So I would say that of course it is unpredictable, but yeah, some large part of the questions can be tackled from your Vajiram notes. That was all about, I think, society, geography, art and culture, history. I think we're done with GS1. Coming to GS2, yeah, so for the polity part, I would say I did a lot of hard work for polity. So I relied on Vajiram notes because here Sir Ravindra sir will be teaching you polity. Then there are different faculties, of course, but in your notes you will be having your important judgments with you. A lot of judgments I still remember, like if you throw a word like maybe sedition, defection, the judgment should come to you, the Supreme Court judgment should come to you simultaneously. So your notes take care of that. Basics आपका लक्ष्मीकांत से cleared होगा, so use your prelims knowledge to introduce that topic and use your Supreme Court judgments and other stuff given in your notes, arguments for your polity answers. Besides that, the editorials that I was talking about, you can always pick up fodder points from editorials. I think in Indian Express, there's this columnist Pratap Bhanu Mehta sir is there, and C. Rajamohan sir is there for IR. So yeah, you can pick good points sometimes. They don't have to be critical of the government, of course, but they have to be solution centric. You can pick your points from those editorials. Then we also have to give your Administrative Reforms Commission, ARC recommendations, the second ARC recommendations. What I did was, initially it's quite funny and embarrassing as well, that I started reading the entire ARC. And it's such a huge report, it's so detailed. So one of my friends suggested that it will take you ages to complete this report. When will you learn and when will you quote it in your answers? So do not do that. You have your second ARC recommendations, you have your summaries offered by many institutes, and you just type it, just Google it, second ARC recommendation summary. A lot of PDFs are there. So you give ARC see, for polity, basics, constitutional articles, that will come from your pre-wali knowledge, prelims knowledge, Supreme Court judgments, committee recommendations, not just ARC, but there are a lot of other committees also. For example, regarding Election Commission, we have the Tarkunde Committee, Dinesh Goswami Committee we have. So these are the three things that will add value to your answer. Okay. Yeah. So that was there, that about polity. Regarding governance and social justice, again, Sahil sir must be taking it up with you. His notes and handouts is where you have to do it from. Besides this, you also have to quote data in your governance questions in education and women related issues and in cooperatives and all. So data is required. So for that, although because yours is a new batch, so the recent data will be integrated with your notes. Okay. Yeah, I've listed a few examples where you can use the data. For example, I remember because mine was 2021 batch, and for 2023 attempt the data was not updated. So, for example, let us say if you have a question on caste-based atrocities, so use data from NCRB report. So just type, this caste atrocities data or manual scavenging data UPSC. You don't have to read the entire National Crime Records Bureau report, but you have to quote this as the source. So your data needs to have some backing of an institution. So use that data to back up your answers. Okay. For IR, any yearly compilation, don't fret about IR. IR can be done very quickly. Only a few questions come, and that too are predictable, along predictable lines. I remember this year question came on NATO, and because of Russia-Ukraine, NATO has been in news since past few years, so it was doable. Coming to GS3, okay, so GS3 is like my Achilles heel, I guess. I used to be really scared of this paper because marking is on the lower side always. It's very difficult to score in GS3. The paper is also dynamic and it has a lot of subjects in it. So for agricultural economy, I'm not sure who is teaching you right now. It used to be Shiv Arpit sir. Yeah. The best notes that you will find in the market. Compare it with your peers and you will see that the kind of examples, the kind of data that he will be providing you, you don't have to go anywhere. So for agricultural economy, you can go to him, and in fact he only suggested me that, suggested to my batch the editorial that comes of Ashok Gulati sir. I think he must have suggested you, yeah. So Ashok Gulati sir's editorials on agricultural economy, on MSP and stuff, they come in Indian Express frequently. So you can pick up good fodder points from that. Besides this, there is MS Swaminathan sir, who was recently awarded the Padma Award. His daughter also writes on agricultural economy, sometimes in The Hindu. So I used to pick up points from her also. So these are some of the editorials you can refer. Besides this, then you have environment and science and tech. They are again very current oriented. This year also there was a question on Chandrayaan 3 in science and tech. So because it was in news, so your environment and science and tech can be taken care of based on your जो भी notes आपने अपने prelims के बनाए होंगे, जो current था environment और science and tech में. You don't have to have a very focused mains preparation for these two things, I believe. This is my opinion. For disaster management, Vaishali ma'am must be teaching you. Yeah, so you have notes for the Sendai framework and all that stuff, the seismic zones and all. But keep a tab on the disasters that have taken place in the past 1 year, right? So there was the Joshimath cracks that happened during my time. So always keep a tab on the disasters that occurred in the past 1 year and write down a few details. Then there was this, the Syria-Turkey earthquake also happened. So we were expecting that there were 3 plates that were there, and along which the earthquake had happened, the Anatolian plate and Arabian. So we were expecting a question along those lines. So prepare the disasters that were in news, and besides that your notes are enough. Okay. So yeah, that was about GS3. Now GS4, coming to GS4, I think I worked the most hard for this paper. GS4 can be a game changer, truly. It can get you in the list, in the top ranks. It can also shatter your dreams, literally. I also scored the highest in GS4 amongst all the papers. So in GS4, what I did after my first attempt was, in my initial attempts, I had my notes from the 3 faculty that taught. So one takes up the philosophy part, one takes up the public administration, and one takes up your psychology part. Pathak sir, I think he takes the psychology part. Yeah. So I had the 3 segregated. What I did was I consolidated it in one place. Because in mains what happens, papers are back to back. You have to revise. Subha GS3 dekhe aoge, there's a 2-hour gap, you have to give GS4. You can't be revising all the 3 at once. It will seem too much at that time. Consolidate it in one place. And another additional thing that I did this time was, I added examples. I referred to notes of 2 rank holders. One was Shruti Sharma ma'am, Air 1. You must be knowing, everybody knows. And then there was a 2022 topper, Air 26, I think, Gunjita Agarwal ma'am. I found her notes on her Telegram channel. You can find her notes on Telegram channel. She has used a lot of examples. So I cherry picked the examples and the unique points that I did not have in my notes, and I added to my consolidated ethics notes. What else I did was ki, regarding your case studies, I think Brijen sir must be teaching you that part, the public administration part in ethics. He will also teach you how to tackle the case studies. There are a lot of approaches to do the case studies. When you will analyze the previous year questions, you will come to realize that case studies repeat not verbatim but along similar themes. There will be a case study every year on corruption. There will be a case study on ecology versus economic development, where you're compromising on environment and because of to give way to economic development. There will be a case study on gender injustice. So these are some of the repetitive themes you will identify after you analyze the case studies. So what I did was I prepared a framework. Framework in the sense कि अगर case study आ रही है corruption पे, I will first introduce the case study, what is being talked about, and why corruption is wrong, and why it is regarded as the bane of the soul and stuff like that. You can quote a philosopher also. All of that will be there in your notes. You just have to develop an approach to answer. So what I did was I prepared frameworks, how I will introduce a corruption based case study. Then of course we have to choose the most ethical course of action. Enlist 3 to 4 courses of action, right? That first you will outrightly refuse. Second, you will talk it out with your seniors, inform whistleblower and try to arrive at a middle ground or stuff like that, or you will whistleblow. So enlist 3 to 4 courses of action. Write down the merits and demerits of every course of action. Okay. I will share it in my Telegram channel how I prepared the frameworks. They're not very neat, but I hope they will be of some use to you. And always try to back up your arguments for choosing a course of action with the philosophical part. That I am doing it because I do it as a matter of duty. Immanuel Kant has talked about it as a matter of duty. Okay, then I am reaching out because there is a veil of ignorance. So I think veil of ignorance, I am not able to remember. Rawls, I think it's Rawls' philosophy. So yeah, so always try to back up your arguments with the philosopher who has used it. Socrates, about thinking how he says that I don't want to teach ethics here, but I'm so in love with the subject that I always go on speaking about it. So I remember I used to quote him a lot, and the best part about ethics is you can quote it in your essays also. A lot of time the philosophies you can quote in your essays, that how he says that we are inherently good, but we have been corrupted by worldly impositions. So we don't essentially have to learn, we have to unlearn. So that was an idea, I have used it across papers, the Socrates idea. So yeah, always back it up with the philosopher's ideas. That was that. Okay, so yeah, as regards the answer writing, this can be different for different people. There is no one size fits all approach to answer writing. It all depends on how well you are able to express yourself. Some people might be good on content, have good knowledge backup, but they are not very good at expressing the same. So when you begin answer writing, prioritize your PYQs first. Your PYQs, see if your PYQs can be answered from your notes. Most of your PYQs can be answered, and if at all you come across topics that cannot be answered, prepare a 1-page note on it or 2-page note on it. Itna prepare kar lo ki you can write a 10 or a 15 marker answer on it. So yeah, PYQ, when you begin answer writing, PYQ first, sorry, and okay, followed by test series. So you shouldn't just jump onto the test series right away. And also when you're writing the test series, don't write it in a haste कि एक test series आज खत्म हुई and 2 दिन में another test series is starting. Take good amount of time to analyze your test series, space out your test series. Because if you will just keep on writing the test and not revising your own notes, then there's no point of writing the test. And when you're analyzing the answers of your test series, Don't just go by the feedback. Of course, you have to understand what the evaluator has also suggested you, but also compare. For example, there is a question that has directly come from your notes, and you had written 8 points in your notes, but you could only quote 2 to 3 points here. Compare your answers with your own notes, that how much I could retain while answering my question. So that is the way to analyze your answers in test series. I think we're mostly done with the academic part. I would just tell about the attitude, the kind of attitude and mindset you need to have for this exam. All of us have different kind of backgrounds, different kind of motivations to come into this cycle, to dream of this service. But irrespective, some of us have it as a childhood dream. Some of us were doing something else, but we lost interest and we were inclined towards this because we knew a person who was into service. Some of us have a role model we got inspired from, while for some of us it must be a parent's dream, not necessarily ours. So we are sort of fulfilling that. Irrespective of the kind of motivation you're coming from, don't have any kind of emotional baggage. Ki agar ye nahi hua, what will I do? Just tell yourself, I told this to myself during my prelims in 2023, कि नहीं हुआ तो कोई बात नहीं, कुछ और कर लेंगे, मतलब कुछ तो कर ही लेंगे लाइफ में. मतलब you have to have that kind of confidence कि I'm not that stupid, of course. If not this, I'm not commenting on anybody's IQ level here, but you have to have that kind of confidence, not overconfidence also, not overestimation, but this कि if this doesn't work out, I'll make my destiny somewhere else. I am capable enough. So when you relieve yourself of that emotional baggage, the failures, they don't seem so daunting. I remember when my first prelims result came out, I knew I was going to fail, mainly because of CSAT. So, it's okay. I had started preparing for my second attempt even before the prelims of first attempt the result had come out. And I had initially planned on giving only 3 attempts. It can vary from person to person. And having a backup or not can also vary from person to person. But don't go with any sort of baggage ki this is the end of life, this is the be all end all, this UPSC journey, yahi sab kuch hai. And don't center your life around it. So then you feel relief ki zyada se zyada kya hoga, nahi hoga, it's okay. Then yeah, besides this positive attitude, there should be a non-complaining attitude. I have come across a lot of aspirants who are always complaining that syllabus itna zyada hai, ya CSAT mushkil hai. Haan hai mushkil, everybody knows that, but it's difficult for everyone, right? So it's not like you're being tormented alone. And then they are like evaluation of mains answers is a black box. It has been a black box since forever. Nobody knows the kind of parameters your answers are evaluated on. So before shifting the blame onto the system, first realize that you came by your own free will. Nobody pushed you here, and nobody is saying that stay here, nobody is saying कि हम तुम्हें बाहर नहीं निकलने देंगे इस black hole से, तुम रहो यहीं पे, तुम करो ये काम. You decided it for yourself. So why are you complaining about it now? And whatever the system is, it's the same for everybody. If mains is unpredictable, it's the same for everybody, right? And if you think that, with respect to CSAT, a lot of people have this, people with science background who've done BTech, it's relatively easier for them. I've seen people who are engineers who have failed CSAT, okay? And I've seen people from humanities background ace CSAT. So it's all about your mindset. And okay, they might have studied it till their graduation, and maths part must be relatively easier for them. It's not for you, so work hard. Who is stopping you, right? They are also studying GS. No, they come from non-humanities background, they are studying GS. So you also work on your weak areas. So don't complain about things. Try to have that solution. There is a solution to everything. And besides this, the third thing that I would say is the being target oriented. Sometimes we are too overwhelmed with the larger picture that we lose sight of the immediate outcomes. What I mean to say is that don't have any kind of obsession when you're in the preparation phase that I would want to be in the top 50 or I want to be an IAS or an IFS in my first attempt. Okay, you cannot predict it. You know, maybe you must be a genius. You know yourself, but you don't know your peers, right? It's a relative competition at the end of the day. You don't know how they'll be performing and how you might be a genius at home, how you'll be performing under pressure on the D-Day. So you don't know that. So yeah, so when I say being target oriented, just look forward to the immediate things. I used to set a monthly target for myself and a weekly target. Irrespective of, even when mains was, I was quite scared after my prelims results came, because I hadn't done close to nil answer writing I had done before that. Again, I don't endorse it, please, as per your own discretion, go for it. I would suggest answer writing practice. Yeah, so I was quite overwhelmed ki some part of me had already given up ki it's my first mains and I'm not yet prepared, so I will most likely falter. So one of my friends just said that, why are you looking at the bigger picture that is to arrive in September, right? Results come around June. Just see कि अभी एक वीक में कितना कंप्लीट करना है, अभी एक मंथ में कितना कंप्लीट करना है, एक टेस्ट लिखना है. सो set small targets for yourself and focus on achieving that. The bigger picture will take care of itself. God will take care of it. You don't have to take care of it. Don't go with this scheme. I hadn't imagined to be in the top 20. Quite honestly, just 2 days before my results, we are a group of 5 friends, all of us gave interviews, and I remember telling them that I'd be happy even if I get in the reserve list that comes 2 months after, but I just want to be in the list. Maybe around 400, I would be happy. I can give the attempt again, but just not the entire cycle. Like, I don't want to come out of the list. So nobody has imagined, once the results are out, whether they will have to give the paper again or not. So don't go with any sort of goal. Of course, your goal should be clearing the exam and fulfilling your immediate targets. That is it. Okay, so that was all from my side. And if, yeah, the room is open for questions, I guess. Yeah. About the interview? Yeah, okay. So there's still time for that though. Regarding interview, I think, thanks for reminding me, because I also had to talk about the kind of mindset you need to have for different stages in exam, right? When you are studying for prelims, you are more detail oriented. You focus on facts and retention more. When you are studying for mains and when you're writing the answer, you are focusing more on whether it is hitting the demand of the question or not, whether what I'm writing is hitting the nail on its head or not. And of course, the replication of your notes, which I said, compare your answers with your notes, whether I have been able to replicate what I already knew. And when it comes to interview, you have to come across as someone. Now, when you compare your mains and interview, in mains, suppose there is a 10-marker question, you have to write 7 to 8 points. You will be having good 4 to 5 points. 2 to 3 points will be very generic, too generic, and everybody has, because it doesn't come to your mind at that spontaneous moment. So yeah, there you can afford to be generic, but in interview, you have to be very specific. You cannot just throw out words, and you cannot come across as very frivolous, no. You have to come across as an informed person. So for interview, I think that is why we are suggested by coachings also, and after seeing the previous year rank holders, that for interview you should refer to maximum print media. Like for economy, I had started reading Mint, and for both the 2 newspapers, for the first time I had picked up 2 newspapers, and I was into habit of note making, and I continued that into interview as well. Some of my friends also used to make fun of me that who makes notes for interviews, but I had prepared notes for interviews, 2 sets of notes. One was based on my DAF, the DAF oriented notes, and one was the current affairs notes for interview. So what happens in interview is that you don't have to prepare a 1 year current affairs for that, because of course they also have a very fleeting memory. They will just remember the recent stuff that has happened. So maybe what has happened in 1.5 to 2 months prior to the interview, you should be having good knowledge on that. So I prepared notes on all of that. Every word of your DAF, right from your name, And my name is such as that, my name also has, there's a town and a river by the name of Wardah. Although my name is Wardah, but there's, so I had to prepare, and it's related to life of Mahatma Gandhi also, Wardah Ashram, you must have read it in your history. So I had to prepare that. Then your birth date, if your birthday is unique, anything happened on your birthday, like I know someone whose birthday falls on 26 January. So again, it's an important day. So everything that is mentioned in your DAF, your address can have any relevance. It can have a leader's name, for example, Mahatma Gandhi Marg, Swami Vivekanand Marg, and they can ask you a question on that. So every word of your DAF you have to prepare. And the interview experience was very smooth, of course, and luckily, I would say 90% of my interview was DAF based only. So I was happy about it. And only 2 to 3 questions were from economy, current affairs, and one was a situation based question. So they'll give you either an ethical dilemma, they didn't give it to me, but to some of the people I know. They'll give you a situation and they'll try to check your presence of mind there. That suppose this thing has happened in your district, maybe a riot has broken down and you are an IPS posted there, you are a Deputy Commissioner of Police, and what immediate steps would you take in such a situation? So I think your GS knowledge that you use in that you have gained during your mains, it equips you to answer such situation based questions, and of course confidence is something that you have to wear as an armor everywhere. So yeah, that was all about my interview experience. Yes.
Did you consolidate your class notes and current affairs into one revisionable book, like which can be revised before the D-Day, the exam date?
Yeah. So like I said, if I found anything good in the editorials, for suppose, I used to add it to my mains notes. That was the kind of consolidation. For example, if I found a good point on defection, sometimes when defections happen, there are a lot of editorials in a week. हर दिन उसी पे आता रहता है editorial, and most of the times the points are repetitive also, but sometimes there are unique points, unique committees are also mentioned. So I used to add it to my defection wala notes. This is how I used to integrate. Yeah, I used to actually I prepared my notes for some subjects. I had this copies, but mostly I prepared my notes on A4 sheets so that I can add a sheet somewhere. Yeah. Also, I forgot to mention in GS 3 about internal security. So yeah, for internal security, the best part about this subject is that it's quite predictable. In the sense, there are just 5 to 6 themes. You have your cybercrime, money laundering, you have your Naxalism, and border issues you have. So there are just 5 to 6 themes. They get repeated once in every 4 to 5 years, okay? And it is very much doable from your class notes. So yeah, just refer to your class notes for that, and the recent measures and the committee recommendations. For instance, you have your Kargil Review Committee, Shikatkar Committee, I think these are there for AFSPA and stuff also, they are there. So these committees and all will be given to you while you're in your class notes itself. There's no such need of data, I think, in this, but recent occurrences, I think you should be able to mention. Okay. For instance, if there's a question on cybersecurity, you should mention about Pegasus and all, or anything that is in news related to internal security. Again, that comes from newspaper. Just add it to your internal security notes. Yeah.
My question regarding note reading. What was your process of note reading for GS and
For GS, like I said, I prepared it with the lectures. Okay, so while the lecture was going on, I used to prepare, and PYQ say I used to map whether and PYQ and syllabus, whether my notes have catered to all the topics or not. And if there was a topic in PYQ that couldn't be answered from my notes, I prepared a note on that. I'm reminded of one example now, that I remember I had not prepared a note on cooperative banking. Right, on entire cooperatives I had my notes prepared, Sahil sir's notes were there, but I didn't have a note on cooperative banking, and when I came across a question, so I prepared a 2-pager on that. So like this you can go through PYQs, and if anything is unaddressed you can prepare on that. For optional, yeah. So for optional, I prepared my notes from multiple sources and they were in soft copy because optional you need detailed notes, and I was quite lazy also back then. So yeah, you can make handwritten notes, but since I require a paper-based format to read, I made my optional notes on Google Docs and I got it printed for both the papers. And all they are detailed because they are a combination of multiple sources also, your optional notes. So I prepared it in a soft format, and again I tried to integrate examples from your newspapers. If there was any sociology relevant news, I used to integrate it. Okay, yeah. So my day was planned in this manner. I used to start with the newspaper, first things first in the morning, and get done away with it in 1 hour, 1 hour 15 minutes with the underlining part and stuff. Then I used to study 2 subjects at a time. Okay, for example, if I have chosen in a particular month, I have chosen to study, let us say, polity and economy. Okay, so in morning I would study one subject. Then after my lunch, I used to practice CSAT also for 2 hours. That was from December onwards, but and in the evening shift, your afternoon evening shift, I used to study another subject, and I used to study my optional at night after my dinner. So that was in this manner, and I think it all depends on some people are not very comfortable with the simultaneous reading of 2 subjects, but it can get monotonous once you're doing one subject throughout. So I tried to do 2 subjects at a time. Yeah, so like I said, I prepared an Excel out of that. What are the common areas from where you get questions? There are only certain topics from which you get questions every year. And if you're not thorough with the concepts, just search any video. There are a lot of videos of banking and SSC papers on, let us say, permutation combination. They will tell you all the cases of that. Just understand the concepts, make notes out of it, the different cases. And for practice, I referred to a website, India Bix. India, B-I-X, indiabix.com. So it has topic-wise questions. You can practice from that. I wouldn't suggest any test series for CSAT because they're not very up to the mark. And once you're done with this thing, you can practice PYQs in a time-bound manner. Also, one thing for CSAT that I would suggest is that most of the times, even if we are thorough with the concepts and all, we perform badly on the D-Day. Because it happens in the afternoon, right? You are a little sleepy also. Then you have that baggage of GS, ki GS kaisa gaya hai. So what I did was, when I used to attempt mocks before my prelims, I used to give it at the same time the paper happens, 2:30 to 4:30 CSAT happens. Subha, I think 9:30 to 11:30 you have your GS. So I used to attempt it at the same time. And I used to practice CSAT also at the same time, so that I don't turn sleepy. I have my mind working in that time frame every day. So you have to get your body, into practice that way.
I just wanted to know that how you prepare your sociology optional. Have you not taken any coaching guidelines or you just prepared by yourself?
Yeah, so I hadn't taken any coaching for sociology. For paper 1, I had prepared certain chapters from Harlumbus and Holborn. I was preparing my own notes. So my notes used to have points from 3 sources. From Harlumbus, Holborn, that blue thick book. And you can check all chapters. It doesn't have to be done end to end. Only few chapters come from that book. Then Ritzer for thinkers. So these 3 books I prepared my notes of paper 1 from. And again, Essential Sociology of Nitin Sangwan sir. And in both these papers, I also included unique points from Neha Bhosle ma'am's notes. I think she is, I'm not sure about her. I think she is also Air 18 in one of the years. 2018, I suppose she is in one of the top 50s. You can easily find her notes and copies, Neha Bhosle ma'am. So I referred to her notes and picked out unique points, thinkers and examples. I included it in my notes. And if you're not able to understand, there are certain things you won't be able to understand. Like amongst the thinkers, I think Parsons is difficult to grasp. Yeah.
Ma'am, in the essay questions, like most of the questions I got questions from the philosophical part and the
Yeah.
So can we use the flowcharts or a diagram, like, or we use only paragraphs in the essay?
I don't really suggest using any diagram in essay because as the name suggests, it's a descriptive paper. Yes, yes, go through paragraph.
Current affairs, like there are multiple sources, like in Vajiram portal, there are searching articles, right? And they also have this video analysis that they get. That is also very interesting. There's so much content. Other than that, we also need to show it. Every day we get so many topics altogether. So how do they consolidate and make their
Yeah, so current affairs can get really overwhelming, and you also have to get out of this FOMO. You know, our generation has कि मतलब ये भी पढ़ लेते हैं, ये मिस हो जाएगा, ये तो मेरे फ्रेंड ने पढ़ लिया था, उसको आ गया, शिट मैंने नहीं पढ़ा, ये उसने बोला भी था पढ़ लो. तो it's not possible to cover everything. Let's just be real. The syllabus is so vast. You will miss out on certain things. Stick to newspaper, of course. I said it has to be done. Stick to just either monthly compilations or your portal or your yearly compilation or any of these things along with the newspaper and make notes out of these. You cannot expect to know everything that comes in current affairs in your paper, right? And it is the static knowledge that will help you clear pre any day. Current you will be, of course, if you are referring to something, कुछ तो आता होगा उस दिन, ठीक है? A lot of questions in this 2023 like the Wolbachia method and all. And another question being again that question of I think it was a mineral based question and DRC Congo was the answer to that. So all of these questions are something they come from a news that come from a topic that has been constantly in news. So you will be able to identify if you are regular with newspaper and one source of which you have made notes, which current affairs hain, you will be able to do. And there are some you won't be able to do 100 questions, so any day you don't have to attempt. Now you won't be able to attempt 100 questions in polity. So stick to a combination of newspaper and either of the three sources that I mentioned. Yeah.
But like for prelims, this is only the monthly manual that you should refer or you should come something else. So make notes on prelims based.
Like I said, for prelims, I told you know I prepared monthly notes, topic wise segregated. Okay, there you enter the prelim specific facts. ठीक है, once you analyze कि prelims में किस type के questions or facts आते हैं, you cherry pick those information from your compilation. Okay, as regards your mains, how you integrate your current affairs with mains, you add the fodder point, the data, the committee, the judgment in your mains notes. उसके लिए you don't have to prepare separately current affairs. Okay, अच्छा, always remember your mains questions, no, they don't come from news headlines, they don't come from current affairs, they come from a very broad topic which is your syllabus ka head. You will be mentioning your current affairs to substantiate your answer. That will form an example. Your news ka headline will never become your mains ka question. So the things that you will be picking up, you will be writing it as an example to your points or to support your answer. So integrate it in your mains notes. उसके लिए अलग से don't prepare any current affairs notes. Sorry? Okay, I think this has been told by someone, a very famous rank holder of previous year who is a doctor and on YouTube also. I won't take his name, but I'm sure all of you must be knowing. So he said, I used to follow him like regularly, and he said one thing, that motivation fizzles out. Motivation is not very sustainable. What is sustainable is discipline. Doing the same thing every day, no matter how monotonous and boring it gets, but you have to do it, okay? And what keeps you moving is how badly you want this dream, okay? And this is your dream and you decided to go for it. Or even if someone else, let us say, like I said, for a lot of people, it might be their parents' dreams. So when you are on your low time, there can be a time when you get bored of this and you're like, this paper is so uncertain whether I'll be able to make it or not. You have to remind yourself why you started. You either started because it was your dream, or you started because it was your parents' dream, or you started because you took inspiration from someone. That person continued, right? So why should you stop? Besides this, also take small breaks. What I used to do is that I did not earmark a day in my week to take off. क्योंकि कभी कभी क्या होता है कि some days you are feeling low and automatically it's a day off. You don't feel like studying. So if we will earmark a day और किसी और दिन भी मन नहीं करेगा तो 2 days will be wasted, right? So a lot of people set up Sunday like or any day of the week and they study also throughout the week and they take their day off on that day. But this was my way to go about it कि मतलब उठे newspaper तो I used to read every day because I enjoyed reading it also. And if I don't feel like studying that day, it's okay. I'll just take a rest that day. But the rest of the week, it could be a Monday also कि Monday को ही उठे और मन नहीं कर रहा है पढ़ने का. So I'll just take a day off. There's no point sitting in front of a book and not retaining anything. There's just no point. So I used to take that day entirely off. I used to watch a movie or maybe talk to my friends, go for an outing or stuff. But the rest of the week, I will not jeopardize. The rest of the week, I will do with full efficiency. And also, once you're done with your day's target, so it's not like you have to study 15, 16 hours. Anybody telling you that is a sham. So it's not humanly possible to sustain your motivation for so long. So once you're done with your day's target, that itte hours you have set for yourself, and always I used to note down how many hours I have honestly to myself. I used to note it down in my phone कि आज I have studied this many hours. So if 8 is my target and I have studied 6 today, tomorrow I will add 2 more hours to my study. So after you're done with your day's target, take a stroll, maybe take a walk, get your mind off this exam. Okay, like I said, there's a life beyond this also. A lot of us continue to use social media handles. I was on and off. I used to deactivate it sometimes. Most of the times it was deactivated, but sometimes also I felt like, again that FOMO and that addiction is there. Use it, of course, but use it very judiciously and sometimes only. So like I said, once you're done with day's target, treat yourself, go for a walk, talk to your friends and use your maybe phone or anything that you like for a certain amount of time. Get your mind off this, this grind, get it off this grind. That's just.
What do you do for revision? Means when you are preparing at the first instance and when you are doing it the first time, so you were completing the things only and then when completed, then you go for revision or how did you?
Okay, so the way I used to study a subject was the first reading when you do of any book, be it standard or NCERT, in the first instance you are just trying to understand what's written. In the second round, you underline the important stuff, and I feel that should be the ideal way to go about it, right? First you understand, then you underline the important stuff, and in the third time or maybe in the second time while you're underlining, you try to learn and retain it. So once you're done, I think this is the first 3 rounds of the, when you're introduced to a subject. There's no limit, I think, to revising a subject. You can do it as many times. For instance, if you have done 2 subjects in a month, like I used to do 2 subjects in a month, Polity Economy kar liya this month. Then to just check how much I have retained, I used to solve PYQs. For Lakshmikant, in Lakshmikant, I think there are PYQs given at the end of the book itself. So just practice it from there, or practice any PYQ compilation to check how much you've retained. And next month, just maybe give an hour at night to revise पिछले month का polity. You might be studying history in this month, but just give an hour to the president chapter कि ये देखो मुझे कितना याद है. So it's a revision की as such कोई मेरी strategy नहीं. It's very vague. It all depends. It depends on you how you go about it. Yeah, like I told the sources, I told time, I would say it depends on your pace and your optionals also. Some optionals are quite detailed. I can't put my finger on how many months it took me, because I was constantly in the loop of either studying. Once I had done preparing the notes, I had to study it also. Acha, also I want to remind this to everybody that before you start your cycle for a year, now suppose before your prelims, ideally you should be done with completing your notes. At least for your optional and ethics, you must have completed your notes, else it becomes very difficult in that 3-month time period. You can't afford to do everything in that 3-month time period. So be prepared with your optional. At least read your optional once, both the papers. You must have read it before your entire cycle begins, before the prelims. So yeah, that was, I told the sources about optional. I also mentioned it on my channel, and I had done a reading of both the papers before my prelims, and in that 3-month time period, I first solved the PYQs. For any GS, or I always suggest solve the PYQs first and then hop on to the test series. That is what I did.
How to be originally answers and like answering, meaning what helped you, like what helped you feel that when you write the answers you get more marks with it, because at the end of the day everybody is the same different material and teaching materials, you feel that that's not sufficient.
Yeah, for this very reason, I suggested you to pick up fodder points from editorials, right? Everybody is using the same class material, the same coaching material. What else are you bringing to the table? Why you should be selected? Because you are picking up unique points from the editorials, from the newspaper. And irrespective of the material being referred, not everybody is able to reproduce that, na? The same points. You remembered, other person did not remember. So I wouldn't say there's a formula for originality, but yeah, try to have as many examples and unique points from newspapers and compilations as your basic argument for any topic. Let us say there's a question on defection, okay, or there's a question on efficiency of a parliament, or the working on parliamentary committees. The basic stuff will remain the same. Parliamentary committees to change nahi ho jayengi across aspirants, right? But let us say if you've able to quote the data, the PRS Legislative Research is a website that brings out the data ki the parliament has been efficient this much percentage in this season, okay, in the budget session and stuff, and you wrote that in parliamentary efficiency. Nobody else wrote that data, but you wrote it. That is what differentiated you from other aspirants. Everybody wrote how parliament works and stuff like that, but you gave that data to support your answer. So that is what I feel is, it sets you apart. And besides this, in GS, there is not much to set you apart. It's mainly your ethics, essay and optional, I think, which are the deal breakers. In GS, it all depends on how effectively you've quoted data, committees, recommendations, judgments. कहने में आसान लगता है कि सब तो वही पढ़ रहे हैं, सब वही लिखेंगे, बट सबको याद भी नहीं होता है. आपको लगता है कि सब पढ़ रहे हैं, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं होता है. ओके, तो आपको पढ़ना है वो चीज़. अब एवरीबडी नोस कि हाँ ये कमिटी इसमें कोट करनी है, सबको पता है. ऐसा नहीं है कि सबको, और इसमें इस प्रोसेस में एवरीबडी नोस दैट यू हैव टू गिव एटलीस्ट 8 to 9 hours on a daily basis, but no, not everybody does that. Okay, so if you are doing what is expected of you, the basic minimum on a daily basis, that will help you get through.
There is some doctors talk in which they suggest that we take a topic wise, and the introduction to the conclusions were already stated.
Yeah.
But like when we're preparing the notes, the class notes, like do we have to remake those notes and synopsis topic wise?
Yeah, okay. This also I think varies across toppers. I have a couple of my friends who had prepared intro and conclusion. I had not prepared, but I'll just try to tell you how I used to introduce. Now, most of the questions that you will introduce, the introduction will either be definitional, you will give a definition of what's being asked, or it would be contextual. Contextual in the sense that suppose there is a question in internal security related to border issues, okay, and you have started the introduction that in the context of the Pathan court or the Uri attacks or the killings. So you have given a contextual introduction to that question कि आपने एक वो event से start कर दिया. So the examiner knows कि this person knows कि किस चीज़ के बारे में बात हो रही है. Okay. So you either give a definitional definitional mein you will start with, we have this much long border with different neighbors, and these are the kind of problems that we encounter that will form the body of the question. So in my case, either it used to be definitional based on what's being asked, or contextual, if I remember that a current affair has happened, and mostly you will remember in the context कि क्यों question पूछा है, कि कुछ हुआ है recently. So yeah, it depends on you. I think a lot of toppers do prepare intro and conclusion, and I think it would be more prudent to ask them how do they do it, because I didn't do it. Yes, I will upload all my notes. The GS notes will be same as yours. These are the Vajiram notes. For optional, I'll upload my soft copy notes. No, thanks for reminding me this. Don't make notes out of Lakshmikantan spectrum. Don't write another book again. And it's very difficult to ascertain कि उसमें क्या, because everything is important, I think, at least for these two books. You cannot, point out कि हाँ ये important है, इसके notes बना लेते हैं, या ये important है. So I think for these two books, don't prepare. And even for NCRTs, don't prepare any notes for that. Give multiple readings to NCRTs. The things will be entrenched in your mind that this was the kind of society. I'll give you an example. This year there was a question on the kind of developments that happened during the Vedic age, or something like how the Vedas contributed. Now this is something that is directly answerable from NCRT. You must have studied that, be it with respect to position of women, the religious practices, or the stratification of society based on castes, or the medicinal solutions that also come from certain Vedas and all, the Upanishads. These all points so your pre-ka factual knowledge will help you, and the broad perspective you have gained from multiple readings of NCRT will help you in mains answer. You will find that your mains questions are directly mappable from your NCRTs if you've done them thoroughly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Just the last question, I'm taking this. Okay. So for paper 1, be it with paper 1 or paper 2, remember that you don't have to just name drop the thinkers every time. For example, if they have asked a question on, let us say, religion, okay, there will be a lot. Durkheim is there on religion, then Weber is there, PESC of Weber. You have to first start by giving an introduction. What is religion? There is Durkheim's definition of religion in that, okay. Give your points and arguments, what is being asked in the question. And when you have written one point of argument, then uske niche jaise, like you give example in other papers, then write the thinker's perspective. Your thinker's perspective can never just be your argument, okay. Your argument has to be your original one, and it can be substantiated with the thinkers. So whatever base material you are referring, it will tell you about a particular topic, let us say politics, or how ideology works, or what is religion, and functionalist perspective or conflict perspective on that. Give your argument first and substantiate it with thinkers. Don't just throw and name drop thinkers, okay.